Hey guys, welcome back. This is Sports with Mono and Mono, and I'm Jim. And unfortunately, my partner can't be with us this week. Still working on a personal matter, so we wish Steve all the best. Wish he was here, but there's a lot of stuff to talk about, obviously, so we're going to jump right into it. And Steve and I will be back with you next week, but for now, it's just Mono today. All right, so. It's September 5th, and it's beautiful here on the East Coast, kind of San Diego-like weather. Who needs San Diego when you got Jersey? I don't know. Actually, San Diego's pretty nice, but it's gorgeous out here. September 5th, Labor Day weekend, and thanks for joining us. So, where do we start? Well, I'm going to start today because this is something we normally would have talked about in May. Right, it's the Kentucky Derby Day, September 5th, 2020. Again, through the summer that never was kind of thing, but they're running it. The Run for the Roses today, and it's supposed to be beautiful weather out in Kentucky, Churchill Downs, and so forth. So we're very excited about that. So let's talk about the horses that are running. It's the usual. Overcrowded field, 18 horses, 17, whatever it may be. And I always think that's too many horses in a race, but it seems to be the norm for the Kentucky Derby, and there's a lot of good horses that are running today. Tiz the Law going for, the second leg of the Triple Crown in a different order, but nonetheless. And it's hard for me. I've been riding Tiz the Law since he won the Belmont and won the Travers, so I'm not wavering. I'm going to stick with Tiz the Law. He still seems to be the best horse in the race, and I'm looking for him to take it today. However, thinking back about the horses that are in the Derby today, there was one horse that I really, really liked and thought it was probably the only horse that could really challenge Tiz the Law, and that's Art Collector. But Art Collector is scratched from the race today, so there's a few other horses that are out there that, and I'm going to give you a couple of them. Honor AP, yes. I mean, and these are the favorites in the race, but and deservedly so. There's a lot of horses that don't belong in this race, but Honor AP is there. But I'm going to give two other horses. Like I said, I like Tiz the Law to win, but there's two other horses that I like. Authentic, real nice horse. Could make some noise. And again, we got to be careful because it's a crowded field, so there's a lot of bumping going on, and it's positioning, and this is where the jockeys come into play and take their horses to victory. So I like Authentic, and my third kind of reach, like I said, worth a sore buck, Max Player. I like him. He came in third in the Belmont, and he's going to be in there today. I like him to finish in the top. But like I said, there's some good horses there today, and but I like Tiz the Law. So we're gonna be watching that, of course, today, and very excited about that. So fastest 2 minutes in sports, love it. And sticking with horse racing, this weekend it's the Jim Dandy and the Woodward up in Saratoga. And again, we mentioned last time that this Monday is the last day of racing up in Saratoga. A whole summer without fans, but the racing's been great. The Ortiz brothers were phenomenal. I mean, they were neck and neck. I'm not even sure which one had the most wins, but they led the field of just the all-star list of Kentucky, horse racing jockeys and the best in the world. But today, although the Jim Dandy and the Woodward are going to be run, today is also, like I said, belongs to the Roses today. So we're looking forward to that. There was a great race yesterday. Always the precursor to the Kentucky Derby, the Kentucky Oaks yesterday, and it was great horses. Gamine was the clear favorite of everybody across the board. Should have walked to victory. 3-year-old fillies, but did not win. She Dares the Devil came out of nowhere, and it was an awesome race. And the Kentucky Oaks is beautiful, just like the Kentucky Derby, always the day before. Great racing. No, horse racing's been awesome this year, and I'm okay now. It took me a while to get used to it, running the Derby in September and not the first weekend in May, but it's the sign of the times, right? And this is what we've been dealing with. Everything's a little bit different than it used to be, so looking forward to the race. And our first segment is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Haverstraw, New York, who, again, couldn't be more thankful to them for being a good supporter of the show and a loyal supporter of the show. And we thank them very much from Haverstraw, New York. So listen, there's a lot of other things going on. I'm not going to even be in a particular order today because there is a lot of stuff to talk about. But let's start with the NBA. And again, I'm going to sit here and say I thought for sure that Milwaukee was going to get there, but they're down 3-0 to the Heat, which is a very big surprise to everybody, I think. But the more and more I look at it, and I've watched Milwaukee, I'm not as impressed as their numbers are and so forth. So is it a surprise that the Heat are up 3-0? Yeah, I think it's a surprise. But I got to give kudos to Spoelstra, the coach of the Heat. He always got labeled that he won the championship because he had LeBron James and he had Wade and Bosh and so forth. But he's taken this team pretty far, and I'm not going to rule it out that the Bucks can't win 4 straight, but it doesn't seem likely. And in the West Coast, the Lakers, like I said, I wouldn't bet 50 cents on the Houston Rockets, but they did take Game 1, so I still think the Lakers are going to win the series. But that was a surprise in Game 1. Celtics-Raptors series, that's going to be a good series. We saw the buzzer beater with half a second left. That was pretty exciting from an NBA perspective. That'll keep the fans coming back. But I still do like the Celtics in that series. I know the Raptors are the defending champs, and they deserve to not be written off, and I'm not writing them off. But actually, basketball's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. But I still think LeBron James is going to be in the NBA Finals, and who's it going to be against? If not the Bucks, then Steve and I were talking about the Celtics for a couple of weeks. They're really starting to gel, and it looks very good for them. So basketball has been exciting. It's actually been exciting. And through this whole pandemic, the concept of the bubble, it seems to have been working. I'm not going to deny that. So it's moving on, and we're going to stick with it. I really do think the surprise team, obviously, is the Heat, but there's still a lot of good basketball to be played, and we'll watch it. We're going to watch it. But let's move on real quick because that's not the only playoffs that are going on. As exciting as the NBA is, I think the NHL has been extremely exciting, and the Stars knocked off the Avalanche last night, which was, for me a surprise. I would have taken the Avalanche because there was a guy on that team, that Nate McKinnon, who, again, we mentioned it last time, we don't get to see those West Coast teams play a lot because we're on the East Coast. But this guy, Nate McKinnon, he had 25 points in his first 14 playoff games, and the only other guy to do that was Wayne Gretzky, and I think we all know who that is, number 99. So that's pretty elite company, and he really is. I mentioned Horvath on Vancouver last week, but this guy McKinnon, I should have mentioned him in the same breath because he is an outstanding player. But their season's over. Stars move on. And the Vegas Golden Knights, this is an expansion team. This is very rare to see an expansion team. I think it's third year in the league. They made the finals in their first season. Now they're making the conference finals. So, I mean, how exciting is this? You got a lot of great players. And hockey, I said, well, the only thing that was different about hockey, which for me makes it more exciting, was the fact that they pretty much played close to a full season, and this was indeed the playoffs. And hockey is great, and we talked about last week the Flyers-Islanders series. Islanders were up 3-1 at that time, and I think I said this has the makings of a grind them down and checking into the boards, with the sticks up and so forth, like an old Patrick Division game. Islanders Flyers Game 7 tonight, and Flyers actually won 2 of those games in overtime, so it's going to be exciting. We're rooting for the Islanders on the East Coast, and that's been awesome, right? The Lightning sit and wait, for who they're going to play. But, we're getting down to the Final Four in hockey, and it's been very, very exciting. And like I said, it's just as exciting as basketball has been. No question about it. So we're looking forward to all those kind of things. So, we're going to move on because there's a lot of stuff to cover today. The Tour Championship is going on today. All weekend, actually, a rare Friday start and a Monday finish with the holiday. So I brought it up before. I'm not crazy about this scoring system, which I don't get. So, the tournament started yesterday, and right off the bat, Dustin Johnson was 10 under par, and Rahm was 2 shots back. Kind of a crazy scoring system, but they all bought into it. So I guess I get the concept, but this is the final tour event of the year. And full disclosure, before the start of yesterday's, I was going to pick, if we had done the show the day before, I like Webb Simpson. He's had a great season, and it could be a surprise. But Dustin Johnson is right there. Jon Rahm is right there. McIlroy had a great day after, becoming a father for the first time. So the Tour Championship out at East Lake is up and running. Round 2 today. Very, very exciting. And it's still wide open. Today's only the second day of the 4-day tournament. So, it's not exactly moving day like Saturday is. But golf has been very exciting. The greatest players in the world, and again, they're doing this with the pandemic. There's no fans. There's nothing, but it doesn't make it any less exciting. And we'll certainly be watching that. What a day for sports, right? We're loaded. Playoffs and horse racing and everything going on. It's golf. It's just great. It's a great time of year to talk about sports. And listen, if we'd always love to hear from you. So send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com because we'd love to hear from you. It's fun being here with you. And Steve will be back with us next week, and we'll continue on. But we're in the midst of a great time in sports, and it's coming at a time where I think we all needed it, right? This pandemic and everything that's been going on, and the events that have been canceled, and the ways that we had to figure out how to get some of this games and exciting moments in sports back, and we're there. And again, we talked about it last week on the show, and I wanted to make sure there was some clarification because I did say last week that we support the right to protest. That's what this country is all about. But we abhor the violence and things that are going on, and I don't know where it's coming from or how it's come to this point in time. But at least we have sports to kind of forget about that and hope people, they want to protest in a peaceful manner. That's the best way to do it. It's the best for the country and it's best for everybody. So we hope everything gets back to normal in the social frame as well as the sports. And we'll move on. And our second segment here is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. You want to buy a Toyota in the tri-state area, that's where you go. And you give Mike Lynch a call. He's the president, and let him know, hey, I heard it on Sports with Mono and Mono, and he'll take care of you. No problem. Okay, listen, again, there's a lot going on. I'm going to try to keep the show as compact as we can, but I want to talk about baseball. And we're going to talk about baseball a little bit more in depth in our notable passings, and I'll get to that shortly because that's something that's got to be close to everybody's heart when we go into that. But baseball, I was looking, wasn't a lot of major trades, right? You hear the trade deadline, and with the Yankees and all the injuries they have, they were wondering if they were going to go try to fill some spots on the roster because the guys that were filling in last year when everybody was hurt aren't having that same kind of year this year, and that's why the Yankees are struggling. So, the Judge, he's got to get back, and Stanton, and these guys have to come back because season's in the second half already, believe it or not. It's only a 60-game season, so the Yankees are in trouble. And right now, Major League Baseball, it's been pretty exciting. The Padres, as we talked about last week, they're still knocking the ball around, and Tampa Bay and these teams, they're not going anywhere. So the longer the season gets closer to the end, hopefully these guys that are hurt for the Yankees will start coming back because it's getting down to crunch time. We talked a couple of weeks ago. I said if they're not careful and they look, they could be down 5 games, and they're 5 games behind Tampa Bay right now. And Toronto's right on their heels. And I wanted to bring something up because I watched the Yankees-Mets and the Polar Bear, who we're big fans of from Sports with Mono and Mono. Just hit a crushing home run, his first walk-off home run. And also an interesting fact, it was his 60th home run in 200 games or less, and there's been only one other player to do that of all the home run hitters in Major League Baseball, and that's Aaron Judge. So kudos to Pete Alonso. It was a clutch home run to beat the Yankees. Yankees kind of blew the game, but he finished it off. It was a big home run for the Mets, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the Mets soon too. But when we're talking about baseball, there is somebody that I want to recognize, and that's Clayton Kershaw. Just got his 2,500 home strikeouts, which, I've always thought, he's been unbelievable, and his record is just phenomenal. This guy's going to Cooperstown. But kudos to him. And I always thought with that herky-jerky, crazy motion he's got that it would just take its toll on his arm, and he wouldn't, be sustaining this kind of dominance he has for the past at least 12 years. But kudos to him. He's one of the best pitchers still in baseball, and the guy, he's definitely going to Cooperstown. But that's a big deal, 2,500. So he's well on his way. He'll get 3,000 strikeouts for sure. But his overall winning percentage is phenomenal. His ERA, he's just still a dominant pitcher after all this time. When you have less than a 3.0 earned run average as a pitcher in today's day and age with the juiced baseball and so forth, that's still phenomenal. And to me, I couldn't be more delighted to watch somebody like that pitch. And he's up there right now. Scherzer, he continues and stays healthy. He's gonna put up these Kershaw type numbers. But he's a dominant pitcher. And baseball is, like I said, they're hitting home runs, which to me, and I don't know this to be a fact, but at like record pace. And these home runs they're hitting, these aren't just clearing the fence. These are moon blast all over. So there's no question the ball is juiced, and it gives you more appreciation for pitchers that can hold some of these big hitters in check. It's great to see. So kudos to Clayton for getting his 2,500 strikeout. And when you talk about Dodgers history, Koufax, Drysdale, those guys, that's pretty impressive. So baseball, okay, right? Like I said, less than 30 games to go down the stretch. I'm not sure, who's going to be playing who in the playoffs and so forth, but it's such a short season. and it's getting down to the wire. So we're going to stick with baseball and watch that. And like I said, there's a lot of good young talent in baseball. It's exciting, and I guess scoring runs draws fans. You know, I'm still an old school guy, and I like. I'll take a 1-0 pitcher's duel any day. Okay, guys. So listen, we're going to move on to the NFL. Let's talk about football in general first, right? So again, the era of the pandemic, and there's a big push to get Big Ten football playing after they originally voted not to play the season. I think that's going to happen. I wasn't as optimistic as I am now, but it seems like, you know, with the declining rates and the COVID testing results across the NFL and the NBA and all the other sports, I think things are going to start opening up a little bit. And, you know, we're only a week away from the start of the NFL season. Hard to believe, but there's no fans. And in most cases, some stadiums are going to have fans. So again, that's up to the particular area, but there's going to be fans in some way, shape, or form. But when we're talking about the NFL coming back and college football, some games are coming back. There's still a little concern on the East Coast. Connecticut, the state of Connecticut, canceled all football for the fall. I mean, that's a big deal, certainly in the tri-state area, because there's a lot of good high school talent up in Connecticut. And that's kind of big news. We talked a little bit about it last week that, you know, most in New Jersey at least, the season's going to be a little bit shortened, and not sure yet of the playoff format. Not sure whether or not we're going to be able to go to the games. But you're not going to be able to go to games in Connecticut because there are none. They canceled it. So this pandemic, it's still looming, and people are still right to be careful and so forth. But, you know, it seems a little odd that it's happening in some places and not happening at all in other places. So, but it is the fall, it is football season, and a couple of football notes. Adrian Peterson, released by the Washington football team. No, I didn't say Redskins like you thought I might. But you know what? I've been looking at him, and he's certainly not the player. And he's only 35 years old. He's thinking he could play 4 more years, right? He's going to end up finishing 4th or 5th all-time in rushing. And he was a great player when he came out of Oklahoma. He really was. And, I mean, you don't get to be 4th or 5th on the all-time rushing list by not being. But his days were running out. He's not the same back. He can still grind and so forth, but you can get it. You can get anybody to do that. So he was released. But you know what? Somebody's probably going to pick him up. Seems to be a reservoir of older players coming out of retirement or something like that. So he can end up possibly in Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. You never know. But he was released, and like I said, I think his days were numbered anyway. But as far as an all-time back goes, seemed like a different person. Personally, the way he came across, Adrian Peterson in his later years, when he first came up, he was polished, articulate, and he seemed to have changed. Similar to, I always put him in the same vein as LaDainian Tomlinson. Same thing when he first came out, articulate, polite, kind, and then, you know, by the time his career was over, finished up with the Jets, just wasn't the same guy. And I mentioned it happened, I always thought Frank Thomas, the big hurt in Chicago, was the same exact way. First came up, phenomenal, articulate, very courteous with the press and so forth. And then at the end of their careers, they were angry about something, and I don't know what it was. But so he's gone. And hey, with football starting to come out, it's exciting in the New York area. Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, right now, they're situated as the leaders of these teams. And it's kind of funny. We talked about Le'Veon Bell, what a disappointment he was last year. He flat out said, Yeah, I'll give you that. I wasn't good last year, but you're going to see the new Le'Veon Bell like you've never seen before. And my answer is just show us. Don't talk about it. Just show us. Because, the Giants have Daniel Jones, just like Darnold, a young quarterback, second year in the league. Darnold's third. Barkley's third year, and like I said, he's going to be a solid anchor for the Giants for years to come. And if Daniel Jones matures like we hope he will, the Giants have a lot to look forward to, but they still have a little bit of holes to fill and so forth. So they're not going to be a contender at this point, but we just can hope for the development of these players and they start to come along. Give us something to talk about. Been lean years in New York on the East Coast for football. But we're excited that it's going to start. And again, the way college football is going, maybe we will see Ohio State, Michigan when it's all said and done. I can't say that for sure, but I think we're all in agreement that this has been a great time for sports. We were without it for so long, and it kind of puts into perspective, We said, we could do without it, but you know what? There's only so many movies you can watch and so forth. In sports, it's always different, right? It's never the same movie twice. So we're looking forward to sports coming back. And before we move on to our final segment, there was a change in ESPN, and Steve and I actually brought this guy up, singled him out a few weeks ago, or actually it was around the NFL draft because he hosted it. Trey Wingo, he's out. Don't know the backstory, but behind it, but always 20 years at ESPN, always classy, always polished, always did his homework. So I can't understand why ESPN would let this guy go. But, he's going to land on his feet somewhere because he's that good. And maybe one day we'll have Trey on our show and find out what went on at ESPN. But good luck to him and to whoever's running ESPN. You let a good guy go. He really is. He's a consummate professional in his sport. And we call it a sport because being an anchor for ESPN, it's almost like a sport. And he's always been there, and he always did a great job. And we thought he did a great job hosting the virtual draft this past year. So, Trey Wingo, good luck wherever you're going to go. And you're going to go wherever you want to go because you're that good. So we just wanted to certainly mention that. Our final segment is sponsored by DeFilippi's Bakery of Monticello, New York. We've talked about them. We're grateful for their support, and if you're ever up in that area, make sure you stop by because everything they have is outstanding. And we can't say enough, and we thank them for being a supporter of our program week after week after week. So two other quick things, and then I want to go on to something that is very, very dear and close to the Sports with Mono and Mono. One of our fans, Diego Cruz, he comes after me all the time, says, you don't talk about soccer, and he's a soccer guy. So I'm going to bring this up because it's kind of big news, and we could put this out there from a greatest of all time in soccer, right? Certainly at this moment, Lionel Messi decided he's going to stay with Barcelona, right? Now, to most of us, and I can't say I'm a diehard soccer fan. I do watch it. I watch the World Cup, and I know the guys that are playing. That's a real big deal. I consider him, excuse me, Gretzky-like, in his sport. And it was big news when he decided he was thinking about leaving Barcelona. He's been there forever, but he's decided he's going to stay. So to Diego, listen, we notice these things that happen. Is he the best player in the game right now? Send us an email at sportswithmono@gmail.com and let us know. I know Cristiano Ronaldo and the other guy, and I'm going to say his name but probably get it wrong, Ibrahimovic, something. those are the top guys, but that's big news because soccer is the biggest sport across the globe. Compared to football, baseball, it doesn't even compare. But that's a big deal, and the money these guys are talking about. I mean, hey, if Major League Baseball players are making $400 million, and I have no problem with Messi or Ronaldo and these guys making $400 million because they bring a lot of attention worldwide to that sport of soccer, and I just wanted to certainly mention that. And also, again, an abundance of sports going on. The United States Tennis Open is underway, and when we look at it from the men's side, obviously, Novak Djokovic should probably walk away to the finish because we don't have the Nadals, we don't have Federers, and so forth. I can't see this guy leaving it on the table. He's still an unbelievable tennis player. So I think the men's side is pretty clear-cut. On the women's side, of course. I mean, you have to consider Serena Williams and her drive and ambition to win another U.S. Open. She's got to be one of the favorites. The number one seed already got knocked out. But there's a lot of good young talent on the women's side. So I'm going to say she doesn't win. Not because I don't like her. I think I admire her record over the course of the past 20 years. It's phenomenal. She's been a dominant women's tennis player. But I just don't know that she can compete with these young kids and Osaka and so forth. She's going to be tough to beat. So can Serena pull this off? I'm not going to be surprised if she does. She's got a tough match with a young Sloane Stephens today, who is certainly an up-and-comer on the U.S. women's tennis circuit, no question about it. But there's a lot of other young talent across from Europe and so forth, and I just don't see her. I think she probably makes it to the semis. Even if she does make it, Serena does make it to the finals, I think it's going to be tough to win, but that's going on. So, I mean, we're talking about the events that are currently happening in sports across the board in the United States Open. Again, no fans. It seems odd, but it's happening, and looking forward to it. And we'll talk about the results of that next week. And our notable passings. And we're going to start off... because we heard about it first, but John Thompson, the head coach at Georgetown University, and big figure, big man, and first black head coach to win an NCAA national championship, and he put on he fielded a lot of good teams. And say what you will about him, he was adamant about giving kids a chance, and he took guys like Iverson and Mourning and so forth, and ultimately made them millionaires. So you got to give him credit. And he was a student of the game. What I didn't realize, he was also Bill Russell's backup on 2 championship NBA Boston Celtics teams, and he played at Providence College and was one of the best players on that team. So John Thompson. I just had a great resume, and he was just passed away last week, but we certainly wanted to notice, we wanted to take notice and mention him on the show, because you want to talk about dominant figures. We talked about Lou Henson and Lute Olson and now John Thompson. These guys were at the top of their game in college basketball, and we certainly wanted to make notice of him because that 1985 season with Georgetown, Syracuse, St. John's, it was just unbelievable basketball. And he was a prominent figure in that. And they were tough games, but they were exciting games. And, those were the days of the old Big East when it certainly mattered. And Big East isn't in college basketball what it once was. But he was definitely... a notable passing in the world of sports, and in particular college basketball. So we wanted to mention John Thompson. And we talked a little bit earlier about baseball, and we were going to talk about the Mets, and this is our notable passing. And this is, like I said, very close to the heart of both Steve and I and our family and so forth, being sports fans. But Tom Seaver, Tom Terrific, passed away this past week, and it would be an absolute crime if we didn't mention, how unbelievable a pitcher he was. The way he handled himself off the field was just as classy as it was on the field. And you want to talk about a big loss in sports. Tom Seaver is a big loss in sports. Number 41, and just what a career. If you look at his numbers, it was just it really was unbelievable. And his record speaks for itself. And it was kind of crazy when the Mets traded him to the Reds and so forth. But he still went on, and he pitched great for the Reds. And he ultimately won his 300th game with the Chicago White Sox. Went back to the Mets again for a cup of coffee. And Steve and I were talking about this when Tom Seaver announced that he was retiring from public life. I think that's when we knew that there was something going on, and his ultimate fate was pretty much sealed. That the Mets, all this time, and yes, they retired his number and they consider him the greatest Mets, but there was never a Tom Seaver day given to him by the New York Mets, and that's a shame. I mean, that is an opportunity missed for the New York Mets, and it's kind of a shame. Yeah, they named the street out front Tom Seaver Way, but that was after he retired from public life, so he wasn't even able to be there. The Yankees have given Jorge Posada his own day and so forth, but the Mets, you missed it. I don't know. You can hang it on the Wilpons, you can hang it on anybody, but Tom Seaver deserved the day. And he's one of two pitchers. This is one of the stats as unbelievable as he was. He struck out 200 10 seasons in a row. But he's only one of two pitchers with 300 wins, more than 3,000 strikeouts, and an earned run average less than 3. You're talking about a 20-year career for a major league pitcher, and those numbers. The other guy was Walter the Big Train Johnson. So of all of the pitchers in Major League Baseball history, that's something that's stuck out in my mind, saying, wow, Tom Seaver was that good. And I thought the tribute for the Mets was cool. They put the dirt on the knee because he had this classic stride that he would actually get his knee dirty from pitching. And it was so great to watch. He after he retired from baseball, he went into broadcasting, actually worked with the Yankees for a while. But that's a big loss in the world of sports. And he is a class act, and it would be remiss if we didn't bring it up and give our salute to Tom Seaver for just memorable moments. And 3-time Cy Young Award winner, but class act, and that's a notable passing. And I think there should be a moment of silence across all major league ballparks in honor of him, and I hope some of the stadiums did it. But very, very notable passing. One of the saddest that we've had to report on the show, and I wanted to bring that up and make sure everybody understands how important, how dominant, how classy Tom Seaver was. So, R.I.P. Mr. Seaver, number 41. And listen, before I sign off, I wanted to bring something else to light because September 11th is coming up again. It'll be here before our next show. So I wanted to take a moment to say, we still think about that day. And I have a dear friend, and we all lost people that we knew, and people that our friends and family lost people, and it was just one of the worst days in the history of our country. And I wanted to give a mano and mano shout out to all of our families and let them know that we will never forget. And that's the slogan for that, and it's true. I have a dear friend of mine, Bill Canty, one of my college buddies who lost a brother. Just one example of thousands that were affected by the events of that horrible day. And I wanted to make sure that we knew that it doesn't go unnoticed in the world of sports with mano and mano, because it's way more important than sports. We use sports as a getaway from things that happen like that. But I wanted to make sure that we wish the best to all the families and the memories of everybody we lost on September 11th, 2001. So thanks for joining us. And again, folks, we really do appreciate your support, and we'd love for you to send us some email at sportswithmanoandmano@gmail.com, and we'll talk about it. And enjoy this unbelievable sports-filled weekend. There's a lot, so whatever your cup of tea is, enjoy it. I'm going to watch as much as I can. But thanks for joining us, everybody, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend. All right, be good. Bye.